Hello and welcome to NewsHour from the World Service of the BBC, live from London. This is Owen Bennett-Jones. Donald Trump was rushed to safety yesterday after shots were fired in a Washington hotel. He was attending a gala dinner when someone in the building fired a weapon. One Secret Service officer was shot at very close range but saved by his bulletproof vest. That's according to a post from the president. The event was the White House Correspondents' Dinner, annual event. There are hundreds of diplomats and journalists there. They took cover under the tables. The music was stopped and the guests hit the floor. Doesn't really catch the crisis that was felt in the room. The president spoke to reporters afterwards.
And that was very unexpected, but incredibly acted upon by Secret Service and law enforcement. And this was an event dedicated to freedom of speech that was supposed to bring together members of both parties with members of the press. And in a certain way it did. Because the fact that they just unified, I saw a room that was just totally unified. It was in one way a very beautiful thing to see. A man charged a security checkpoint armed with multiple weapons, and he was taken down by some very brave members of Secret Service, and they acted very quickly.
Well, after that, Washington, D.C.'s police chief, Jeffrey W. Carroll, gave an update on the injured officer and the 31-year-old suspect who has been arrested.
An individual charged a U.S. Secret Service checkpoint here in the lobby area of the hotel. He was armed with a shotgun, a handgun, and multiple knives. As he ran through that checkpoint, members of law enforcement from the United States Secret Service intercepted that individual. We do know that law enforcement exchanged gunfire with the individual. We do know that a U.S. Secret Service uniformed division officer was struck in his vest. He was transported to a local hospital for treatment. He seems to be in good spirits at this time.
Well, Cole Thomas Allen, 31 years old, of Torrance, California, will be formally charged in court on Monday. So what about the security aspects to this? The attack was foiled, but some think that's not really the whole story in terms of how good the protection of the president was. Jonathan Gilliam is a former US Navy SEAL and FBI agent. What's his reaction to the shooting?
Frustration. I'm sick of seeing this happen over and over again. I mean, it's happening more and more all over the world, but 3 times now, it is getting very frustrating for several reasons. One, because there's people in this country that just want President Trump dead. There's international people that are threatening. We're in the middle of a war. And then the other thing that's frustrating me is the fact that the Secret Service keeps allowing these people to get within the max effective range of the weapon that they're choosing. And I don't understand that. I don't understand why this individual was just within an earshot of a gun going off from the president.
Well, I mean, the fact is he didn't get through this security perimeter, so didn't the security work?
Well, it worked for this one particular gunman, but what happens if they initiate the attack and it was more than one person? They initiate it with an explosive, and then they move right in there. If somebody had an explosive, they would have killed all those Secret Service agents, and then the next individual could have come straight in and done the same thing within the room. I mean, there was also 3,000 people in that room. So it's, listen, if you try to go to a World Series or a Super Bowl or a big important soccer match over there, you're not going to be able to get in within a perimeter with, for instance, in the Super Bowl with a bag that's not clear. And even those bags are very small. So why do they put that protection on the Super Bowl, but they won't do it for the leader of the free world and 3,000 people that are in the room with him? His entire cabinet pretty much was there. It's very aggravating.
I guess the answer is it that it's a hotel in the middle of a major city, and so, it's a question of how much disruption there is for the event.
Same hotel where Reagan was shot. So you think they would have learned their lesson by that, at this point. So listen, this is what I do. I do security. I do threat assessments. I have a company. We're all over the world. We've been almost every single arena in Europe. over the past 4 years. And I take this stuff very seriously, and it's not rocket science. You can work around the fact that people from the hotel are going to be there, but the people in the hotel have to accept the fact that that's going to be there, or they just don't have it there.
Right. I mean, I guess that's right. There will be safer locations to hold it, yeah?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, there always is. And that's, you have to think these things through. And I just don't feel like the Secret Service is, they're not thinking like an attacker when they do their threat assessments. And that has to be done.
What about this point, though, that, you talk about what if there's explosives and then 3 or 4 of them and, maybe 20, 30, 40, 50 of them. I mean, in those sort of circumstances, you can't in the end be 100% safe, can you?
Well, you can have a perimeter that is a max effective range. For instance, for a car bomb, you go to certain hotels around the world, you can't get a large vehicle within the max effective range of an explosive that would fit in a cement truck, for instance, because they've used those in certain areas. And so they learn from what happens, and then they set standards for that. And, this being a hotel where a president's been shot, people know that security is very tight in Washington, D.C. So you either ratchet it up and extend that perimeter, or you don't have it there. And you can hear it in my voice. I'm very frustrated because it's not rocket science. We have to look at who's a threat, and then we have to do something about that. And if it's just extending a perimeter, then that's what we do.
And that's the former US Navy SEAL and FBI agent Jonathan Gilliam. Well, the venue was the Washington Hilton, as he said, the same hotel where Ronald Reagan was shot in 1981. The BBC's North America correspondent Gary O'Donoghue was a guest at the dinner, and he spoke to Paddy O'Connell.
I was at one of the tables, table 95 in the ballroom. It had about 2,500 people in it. And I guess I was about 40 feet from the stage. The stage was behind me. The tables were sort of going laterally across the room. And so the president, vice president, etc., and their wives were on that stage 40 feet behind me. And between me and the stage, there was also another table, I think, with some of the cabinet on it. And then maybe about double that distance, maybe a little bit more from our table, the direction I was facing were the doors into the ballroom. And that's where the sounds came from at about 8:35. And I sort of did a double take in an audio sense. I sort of heard something. I thought, what, did I just hear what I think? What is it I heard? And then my brain sort of caught up. And I thought, that's that kind of thudding noise that, big long guns, as they call them in this country, makes indoors, And I thought, oh, God. And then I heard this sort of crashing of glass as well. And I thought, okay, that's not just someone dropping the hors d'oeuvres, that sounds a bit more serious than that. And I'd been talking to a colleague of mine, Daniel, on my left, and I kind of felt his head brush past my arm. I thought, what on earth is he? And I thought, he's going under the table. So I went straight under the table and knelt under the tablecloth. And we kind of, Paddy, we kind of sat there for a bit, kind of waiting to see if, there was if there was someone in the room who was going to start shooting, because if someone had got in and all those people packed in, 2,500 packed in, it would have been an absolute killing ground. So after about 10 minutes, it became, there was a lot of people running around with big guns. We saw them dragged off the principals, as they call them, dragged off the stage. The director of the FBI was, like us, on the floor a few tables away, lying on top of his girlfriend. And then it became clear that the coast was clear, and we all got up and, tried to get a phone signal to call our news desks.
I remember speaking to you when you were at the attempt on the president's life during the presidential election campaign. And on this occasion, you've seen it again, and a Secret Service agent has taken a bullet on this occasion. What happened to him?
It seems, and the detail is still a bit sketchy, but it seems that the guy who rushed the security cordon outside the ballroom, you see him running pretty fast, and he's got a gun, and it seems that he got at least one shot away. And it seems that may have hit the Secret Service agent, who fortunately was wearing body armour, who is in hospital, but the president has said that he's spoken to him and that he's going to be okay. We don't know his condition. The guy, the gunman, he was taken down by the Secret Service. You see him lying on the floor with no shirt on. So they've taken him down and obviously, stripped him basically his top. He was also being assessed in hospital, and they have laid charges already against him, and he's been named as well. But why he was doing what he was doing is still very sketchy. There's some reports that, he has said that he had Trump administration officials in his target sites. The extraordinary thing is, given all this security around this event, how he managed to get that close. He was a guest at the hotel. There were still guests at the hotel despite the security. And he managed to get that close with a long gun, a handgun, and a bunch of knives. It beggars belief, really.
Listeners will remember in 1981 there was an attempt on the life of Ronald Reagan, and he was actually shot. He took a bullet. And Gary, is that at the same hotel?
It's precisely the same hotel. It is the Washington Hilton on Connecticut Avenue in Washington, D.C. It's, it's developing a bit of a reputation for itself that it will not enjoy. The president was shot outside the Hilton on his way back from an event. And obviously this took place inside. But yeah, it's the very same hotel.
We should mention what the Correspondents' Dinner is, because Donald Trump has sat it out recently because he didn't want to go. It's normally a light-hearted event.
This is the White House Correspondents Association, of which I'm a paid-up member, and it represents correspondents that work around the White House, as you can imagine. And it has this annual gala dinner at the Hilton, etc. And normally presidents do go, although this president didn't go at all during his first time. And the people have said that the reason is that normally they have a comedian as their main act at the dinner, who takes the mickey out of the president, and obviously. We know Donald Trump doesn't like that very much. But this year, they weren't going to have a comedian. They were going to have a guy called Oz Perlman, who describes himself as a mentalist, which he's does mind games kind of thing. And people have said, well, that's the way they managed to persuade the president to come, because there wasn't going to be a comedian, more of an entertainer. But clearly Donald Trump had shaped up to try and enjoy the event and treat it for what it was. We weren't expecting any of this kind of finger pointing, you're fake news, you're the enemy of the people stuff, because there were like 2,500 people in that room that would not have clapped.
There we are. That was Gary O'Donoghue, BBC North America correspondent, who was actually in the room when it all happened. We'll be speaking to someone else who was there, actually standing right with the president in just a few moments' time. I should just say that the person who's been charged, Cole Thomas Allen, or about to be charged, there are lots of articles saying, what do we know about him? And the answer is not very much so far, so presumably the American journalists will get to work on that and we'll know more shortly. You're listening to the World Service of the BBC. And coming up in the programme later, we'll hear how the Sahel region in northwest Africa has become a focus of activity by violent jihadist groups.
Islamic State, Al-Qaeda, they're still somehow present in the Middle East, but the main action is now here in the Sahel. Most victims are here, so that's now the new front line of the jihadists.
And there's been quite a lot of fighting in northern Mali. We'll be reporting on that. Just other headlines. Kenya's Sebastian Sawe has become the first person to ever run a marathon in under 2 hours. He made that sporting history on the streets of London today. And FBI agents have been searching a property in California connected to the armed suspect who fired shots when President Trump was hosting the annual White House Correspondents' Dinner. Right, let's get to someone who was very close to the action last night. Oz Perlman was the speaker at the dinner, the White House Correspondents' Dinner. He's described as a mentalist, a magician really, who can, he either can or can give the impression of reading others' minds. And if you look at the video of the moment the attack happened, it's on all the TV channels, he was standing right by the President and the First Lady performing a trick of some kind when all of them reacted to a noise. And Oz Perlman, what did you hear?
So I was right in the middle of performing for the president and the first lady, press secretary Caroline Leavitt, and I heard a commotion in the middle of the room, and we heard it, but it was like right at the exact moment of my big reveal. So everyone's kind of smiling, but then it escalated. So at first there's that feeling of, is there somebody having a heart attack? Is there a medical issue? And then I saw instantly so many people swarming one specific location and you knew it was something that was danger. It wasn't like, somebody was sick and somebody collapsed. I at first thought it was a bomb. I was within a second, I'm looking because it didn't feel like somebody was shooting. I hadn't heard shooting, but you heard a loud noise and it seemed like they were rushing to stop someone from doing something. So I've seen the video and I remember it clearly, but I dropped up almost as quick as anybody. I just said something's about to explode or something's about to go. So I was right behind the president and I ducked down.
Are you saying there was a direct line of sight between the shooter and the president?
No, not the shooter. Not the shooter. There's you couldn't see the shooter, but you could see all of the Secret Service people coming in to one location. And we're higher up because we were on the dais, so we were elevated.
Yeah.
We were higher than everybody. We had a very good vantage point. Sorry, I lost my voice. And so I just went down. Like it seemed like something was about to happen. And given, history, I was hoping not to get shot. So I went down very quickly. And then the Secret Service brought President Trump down, I would say very effectively, but quite violently. I'm hoping he's fully okay because I watched him go down really hard. So I was facing stage left. It just by chance, they tackled him right next to me facing stage right. So when we went down, I can't measure it, but about 1 foot apart from our faces. And I'm turned to the left, looking directly into his eyes for 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippis, pretty much thinking, I hope I'm not about to die, but also simultaneously, based on looking at his face, I wasn't sure if he had been shot because it was I just didn't think they would do that like that if somebody hadn't shot. And you couldn't tell if he was injured or if the first lady or if anybody. At that point, I did hear what I thought were shots. So you just didn't know. You think like things move slower, but in that moment, looking at the president's eyes, both of us down, I still thought the room was going to explode. I really my instinct was it looked like it was about to be a bomb.
And when you were down with the president, first of all, did he?
I didn't talk to him.
No.
I didn't talk to him. I can't explain it. It's going to be seared in my mind forever because obviously the adrenaline, the president. You don't normally see the president on the ground, and you're like literally face to face looking at each other during quite a panicked moment. And then it was 2 beats, 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi. And then they take him out. I'm next to Courtney and a few other people that are at the dais, and we're like looking at each other and we start army crawling out, but I don't want to get up because I don't know if they're still shooting. So we all like slowly didn't know what to do. I didn't want to move. And then we crawled out. If you see the video, I don't know if it cuts, but we all crawled on our arms because we didn't want to go up yet. And then I was really concerned about my wife because she's out in the audience, but thankfully her seats were very far from where I thought the shooting had happened from. And backstage, we did not know for minutes still if the president or the first lady was hit. We didn't know who was shot. We were told definitely there was shooting. We were told somebody was killed. There was we just didn't know for an extended period what was happening until we spoke to the vice president at a certain point. We saw Secret Service with guns everywhere. It was, it was a crazy night. Like I don't have any other way to put it.
Certainly was. And you were literally standing between the president and the first lady. So what about her?
I was an inch away. I was showing the president the name I was revealing at the moment that we looked up.
And it's a trick you do, right? To explain that you were doing something.
It's one of my famous tricks. Yeah, I was guessing something. They were blown away.
Yeah. And so what happened to the first lady?
So I never saw the first lady. I literally can't explain it. You could reconstruct from the videos, but when I went down, I was like, just the direction and where we went down and the way I watched the president go down where he started going down and they kind of like got on top of him. And my first thought was just when we locked eyes, I can't explain it the way. I'm like, oh no, I hope I'm not about to die. Like it was a very scary moment. Like I didn't think we were safe. I didn't think it was like, oh, this is a fire drill.
No, sure. And obviously, as you say, you were scared. What about the president? Did he look scared?
I thought the president might have been injured. So my first take on it was that it might have been from the fact that like 2 grown men hit him really hard. I wouldn't even want that done to me, but I think they're the safety was paramount. They must have done it in a way that was more effective than it looks. But, he went down really fast in what looked hard to me. So I couldn't really tell his disposition. I just was hoping he was okay.
Did you say the vice president was there too?
So the vice president was sitting next to me earlier. So I did a trick for the vice president earlier, and for Jackie. So we were sitting next to each other. If you watch earlier, and then at that point, I spoke to vice president. I'm like, I'm going to go do something. He's like, yeah, go do something for for Trump. And so I went over and I started performing because I was going to be doing a show later for everyone in the room and everyone on TV. So this was more of a warming up the crowd. Backstage, I had the chance to meet the vice president and perform for him. I had met President Trump, who told me he was very excited for my show. And so this was, doing what I do, which is kind of warming up the crowd and starting to amaze everyone.
I mean, you're not a security guy, but it seems incredible that the president and the vice president would be so close together, as revealed by this incident when someone with a gun got, moderately close to them.
It's crazy. Right. It's absolutely crazy. Yeah, I don't know how else to explain it. It was a terrifying night. I'm so happy everyone was okay, and that the story also. I've received a lot of people checking on how I am, followed by hundreds of messages of how did you not see this coming if you're so good. So I feel like I'm going to be haunted by that forever because the joke writes itself. But I am more of somebody who guesses what you're thinking and not what deranged people are thinking with guns.
Now then, I think the president has said that the event will be rearranged and it will...
I'm hoping.
Will you be there?
I will 100% be there. I think the story you would have been hearing tonight, had this awful event not happened, was about my performance because I had something spectacular planned, but it was not meant to be that night. But you know what? In the world of what's serious and what's not, entertainment takes a backstage to violence. And I know in this country there's a lot of division and across the world, but I think that something like this kind of just lets you know that there's different ways to handle these types of problems, and this is absolutely not the way. And violence like this is just unacceptable.
But it's what's happening in America, isn't it?
Unfortunately, I mean, it's happened several times in the last few years, so it's incredibly scary.
Oz Perlman, well done on getting through that really very difficult set of circumstances. And I think you've had a bit of sleep and you're sounding very fresh given what's happened. Thanks very much for coming to talk to us. Well, that was Oz Perlman, the magician mentalist who was standing right by the President and the First Lady when the attack took place. You're listening to the World Service of the BBC. You're listening to NewsHour, and in the last couple of hours, Sebastian Sawe of Kenya has won the London Marathon. There's that, but he's also become the first man in history to complete the distance in under 2 hours, and quite well under 2 hours. It was 1 hour, 59 minutes and 30 seconds. This was the moment he neared the finishing line.
History in the making. Under 2 hours. Nobody's ever done this. They said it couldn't be done. Sebastian Sawe is going to break the 2 hour mark. He's going to win the London Marathon in incredible style. An historic performance, 1:59.30. Absolutely incredible. I've never seen anything like that. What a finish.
Smashed the record. Alison Kirbishley was covering the race for the BBC. She joins me now. Were you there at the finish line?
Sadly, I wasn't.
Oh,
I was watching in the studio on screens, just not a stone's throw away, but just to be here and be in the city and to witness absolute history being made. I mean, it really was a race of the ages. We witnessed the greatest marathon race, and it was a race. I think that's what made the not just the world record, but obviously obliterating that magical 2 hour barrier. I think that's what made it possible, because Sawe was in a race with a man who never ran the distance. I mean, a debut. If you told Yomef Kajelcha of Ethiopia last week that he was going to run 1:59.40, I I think he would have thought he was winning that race.
Oh, well, so
But
two people beat the 2 minute
two
record.
people, yeah, two people went under it. And then Kiplimo, the Ugandan, who finished in third, actually went under the old world record of Kelvin Kiptum, the late Kelvin Kiptum, running 2 hours 28. So it was a phenomenal achievement. And to see Sarway really accelerate and power through the line and obliterate that 2 hour mark. It really was a moment of history.
So just doing my maths, that means that this record was about 55 seconds quicker than the last
He
world record.
It was 2 hours 35. So yeah, he absolutely took
Right.
he really did obliterate it. And and I think the way that he ran it was so I mean, literally it was everything that could have been scripted was written perfectly for him. The pacemakers did their job. They'd asked to be taken through in I mean, I can't even believe that I'm saying this, 60 minutes and 30 seconds. They went through in halfway in 60:29, and then he threw in a negative split, a 59-minute second half, which is just phenomenal. And to get quicker, and like I say, I think it had a lot to do with the fact that Kajelcha was with him all the way along the embankment in that latter sort of 4 or 5 miles. And he just got quicker. It was phenomenal to watch.
Alison Kirbishley, thanks. A Star is Born at the London Marathon. We'll be hearing a lot about Sebastian Sarway, I think. You're listening to the World Service of the BBC. The status of the talks between the US and Iran is pretty opaque just now. Things seem to be happening, but very much out of the public gaze. So what exactly is going on? It seems to be very tightly held. People following it all suggest both sides do actually want a deal, but there's still just a very wide gap between them. The key issues seem to be the nuclear program, the Strait of Hormuz, sanctions relief. There's also that original demand from Iran, a guarantee that it won't be attacked again, whatever form that could take. Let's get the big picture now from the very distinguished academic Lawrence Freedman, Emeritus Professor of War Studies at King's College, London. It's just a general question. First of all, how does he assess the current state of the negotiations?
Bit of an impasse. Neither side wishes to appear too needy to get the conflict over. Both claim to be prepared to play a long game. I mean, everybody else is suffering because of this, and they are too, I think, but it's become almost a matter of honour for the Iranians to demonstrate that they have cards of their own, that it's not the case, as Trump says, that the US has all the cards. And until they get a sense that there's something for them in the negotiations, I think they're unlikely to budge. I think Trump wants the war over, but he doesn't want it to be seen as if this is being concluded on anything other than his term.
Does that mean he has to end up escalating?
Well, not necessarily. There's not a lot of escalation left.
He could use his soldiers to take Karg Island, for example.
Well, he could do that sort of thing, but it's highly risky. It wouldn't be popular in the US. I mean, you'd lose people in the process. I mean, he might. I mean, one wouldn't dare preclude anything at the moment. I think the current view, as far as one can work it out in the White House, is that the Iranians are under a lot of pressure. I mean, economically, the country's a total mess. Basic services don't work. They have shortages. The internet's been off for 6 weeks, which is a deliberate decision of the regime. So that at some point they'll break. And I think there are people in the Iranian regime who are worried about this, but they daren't, both because of their domestic situation, because the hardliners actually control most things in Iran, and because they don't want to be seen to be needy to the Americans. They're not going to admit that. So I think the Trump view is that somehow the Iranians will bend, and maybe they will, but there's no guarantee or when this will happen.
Right. I mean, do you think the US is right? I mean, it seems that Trump believes the leadership in Tehran is split and divided. Do you think that's true?
It would be amazing if there weren't divisions. We know the IRGC, Revolutionary Guard, basically has taken control. and they're essentially first priority is to keep the regime in place. The people, like the president and foreign minister and others, who are worried about actually governing the country, about making sure people get fed and looked after and so on. I think uh, they'd be much more. They are more ready to negotiate, but they need something to work with. So I think that the splits only become seriously relevant if there are hard choices for the regime to make. But at the moment, the choices aren't there because Trump hasn't really offered them anything.
I mean, predicting these things is impossible, but you've got a better chance of getting it right than most. Where will we be in a year?
In a year,
Yeah.
well, if the Strait isn't open in a year, we're in deep, deep trouble. So the Strait has got, at some point in the coming weeks, the ways are going to be found. And I think the pressure on Tehran, not so much from Washington, but from Pakistan, China, other countries to get this open, to get things moving. Because remember, the countries that get hurt most by this are not in the West, they're in the so-called global South. And there's a lot of real hardship developing already. So I think there's going to be enormous pressure to get it open. But that will require pressure on the Americans to ease their blockade as well. It's very hard to say. I think, I mean, my view for some time is that the regime in Tehran, it's not doomed, is in real trouble because it can't run the country. It just doesn't have the resources. The economy, the currency is worthless, totally dysfunctional, corrupt, and so on. Um, so it may be that something will have changed then, but whether it will have moved to a different, milder regime or chaos is harder to say. So there's lots of moving parts. It's just an odd situation moment where they ought to be moving, but they're not. We're sort of frozen because neither side is quite able to make the first move to get out of the impasse.
One last thought. You say China will put pressure on Iran to get the Strait open, but might China not play a longer game, and Russia, and just think we are weakening we are seeing US power weaken before our eyes. The long-term goal is to accelerate that process, and we will help Iran do that.
I think that's happened anyway. I mean, the Russians have got their own problems, but the Chinese are are quite content on that regard. But they are very worried about their economy. I mean, this affects Chinese economy and the countries around it quite severely. They get a lot of oil from this part of the world, and some ships may get through, but not enough to meet their needs. So I think it's self-interest that's going to push it. Not, American power is diminished whatever happens now.
And that was Lawrence Freedman, Professor of War Studies at King's College London. To the West African state of Mali now. There are two groups of powerful people in Mali who claim to be able to provide security in the country. There's the military leadership that took over in 2020, and then there's the Africa Corps, a Russian government-controlled paramilitary outfit created to replace the Wagner Group after Wagner pulled out in 2025. But both are challenged by an alliance of some kind, bringing together an al-Qaeda-linked jihadist group and Tuareg rebels. And this weekend there have been attacks with those two together, attacking on the fringes of the capital Bamako, several other towns and cities as well. The government says the situation is, and I quote, totally under control in all localities. But news in the last hour or two has broken that the defence minister was killed yesterday. Ulf Leising is based in Bamako. He's not actually there just now. He's just on the way there now. He works for the Konrad Adenauer Foundation. What can you tell us about the defence minister?
Yeah, I mean, his house was yesterday struck in a precision strike, and it's impossible to confirm. But there are indications that he's been killed, and this is a major blow, especially for Russia, because he was a point person for the deployment of Russian mercenaries in Mali.
Tell us about the Russian element of this then. They are the successors to the Wagner Group, and they're meant to be providing security, but they're clearly failing.
Yeah, for Russia, it really has been disaster, this attack. I mean, they arrived in late 21 with the Wagner Group, promising to restore security and fight back the jihadists. But the situation has gone from worse to worse. They were unable to provide security, and there have been a lot of abuses and killings of civilians, which kind of further fueled the conflict because survivors then tend to go to the jihadists to join for protection. And now they were unable to even predict this attack or even defend the government properly, the major cities.
It's just worth making the point that the violent jihadists in Mali are part of a broader sort of development, aren't they, where it's no longer the Middle East that's the front line for these people. It is North Africa, West Africa.
Absolutely. Sahel is now the epicenter for jihadists, for their terrorism. There are no more, operations or attacks or civilians you find there. The Middle East, and you still have Islamic State and Al Qaeda, a bit pockets, but the main action is really here because the states are absent, they're weak, and there are so many injustice. So that's why they're really thriving, the jihadists here.
Yeah, and there's other news coming in just the last hour or two about exactly what's happening in the north of Mali. There's a city there called Kidal, and the rebels say they are making significant progress there. And even reports that the Russians have pulled out. Have you got anything on Kidal?
Yeah, I mean, Kidal is a Tuareg stronghold. It's very symbolic for Mali because it has been mostly outside of government control. This government actually seized it end of 23. They were very proud of it. And now they lost it again. I mean, it seems the rebels are in charge, and the Russians who are supposed to, protect the city are being humiliated. They have to leave the city. So that's a major public relations disaster for the Malian government and Russia.
Yeah, and just on who's done this, is that a Tuareg attack or a violent jihadist attack? I mean, they're both working in coordination, obviously, but what happened in Kidal? Who took it?
Yeah, I mean, most likely the Tuareg rebels, were on the front line, because they're the ones who know the area best. It's the Tuareg stronghold, but they were working apparently with jihadists. They're very different. Tuaregs, they just want, independence, autonomy for the north, whereas the jihadists want, Islamic Sharia. But now they're working together because they have this joint enemy, Russia and the Mali military government.
Yes, it's quite an alliance. And just on the jihadists, the group is called JNIM, which is JNIM. Now, tell us a bit about them, who's financing them, how big are they, how many people have they got?
Yeah, that's a major jihadist force in West Africa. They are affiliated with Al Qaeda, and they have been really expanding. They control parts of Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger. They're now in Benin. They're really the ones, and they're already setting up parallel authorities. They have their own tax, service, taxing farmers. This is the main, income source. But they also, make a lot of money with kidnappings. Last year, there were 2 Emiratis getting kidnapped. It was apparently a huge ransom paid. So now their war chest is really filled, and that helps them to stage these attacks, buying weapons, buying fighters.
In other parts of the world, Pakistan, Syria, when jihadists have been in charge, they've ruled so violently, brutally and badly. They've lost support. Do you expect that to happen in Mali?
JNIM, they kind of changed a bit. I mean, they were very brutal when they took, the jihadists in 2012 northern Mali, and that's why they're now a bit different. They're still brutal, but they also offer alternatives. Tell villagers, look, we protect you from the Russians. We allow you to farm. That's why they're really more successful than Islamic State, which you also find in West Africa. They're really brutal, and they haven't got, they haven't changed at all.
They haven't learned how to do politics. And just one last thought. The French basically left Mali, leaving it to these other groups. Do you think if the French were still there, this wouldn't be happening?
I still think security would have degraded, maybe not as fast as we can see now, but even when the French were there with this huge operation costing €1 billion every year, security has been degrading because, the French had maybe 5,000 soldiers. Mali is a vast territory, unable to be controlled, and the state is nowhere to be seen. So there's lots of, desert mountains where jihadist insurgents, can hide and always strike back. So it would have degraded anyway, but not as fast as we see now.
Thank you very much indeed for that very clear explanation of what's going on in Mali. That was Ulf Leising from the Konrad Adenauer Foundation. Well, let's go and get more on the White House Correspondents' Dinner attack with BBC's Shaima Khalil, who's following what's happening. And presumably we're getting news about the legal process and the attacker. What have you got?
That's right. But we also just heard, Owen, from the acting Attorney General, Todd Blanche, who was speaking on one of the Sunday morning shows, and he said that investigations on the motive continue, but preliminary findings suggest that the suspect was targeting administration officials, likely also the president. We also know this morning that the suspect, Cole Thomas Allen, will be brought to court tomorrow, on Monday, where he will be charged with assaulting a federal officer, discharging firearms, and attempting to kill a federal officer. He is expecting to face more charges as the investigation continues. The question remains at the heart of this about this massive security breach, how he was able to get so close, being so heavily armed, a shotgun, a handgun, and a number of knives. Now, the director of the Secret Service and other law enforcement officials have said that the way this incident has unfolded shows that the security plan had actually worked, that the officers acted within seconds. He was apprehended, prevented from going into the ballroom. But where I'm speaking to you now, outside the Hilton Hotel, where all of this unfolded, Washington is waking up, taking stock of the fact that a huge security breach happened in an event where the president, the first lady, and senior members of his cabinet were present.
Yeah, and the vice president as well. I mean, but there's another side to it, which is the motivation of the attacker. Now, I was expecting by now we'd be hearing all about his social media feed, but I've seen nothing. Maybe he didn't have one.
That's right. It's really interesting because the way these things have unfolded in other events is that you do see things like that, what he was saying online. What we know so far about him is his name, his age, he's 31 years old, that there is a home that we understand from U.S. media is his in California. It is being searched in Southwest L.A., and that he was a tutor and that he was actually quite highly educated. But we don't know more about him, about what motivated him. From watching the U.S. media, speaking to people who knew him, they said that he seemed like a nice person, a decent person, and that he didn't really, there was nothing to kind of give away that something like this could have happened. So yes, there is the motive behind what happened, but also him personally. We don't really know much about him at this point, and I think as this unfolds, and again, him appearing in court tomorrow, the hope is that we know more about him and what led him to what happened yesterday.
Sure. I mean, there's a LinkedIn profile, apparently, in which he describes himself as a mechanical engineer, computer scientist by degree, independent game developer by experience, teacher by birth. That's how he describes himself. That's right. And I think from what we also have seen in some of the people that were speaking to other media outlets is that they talked about their experiences with him as a tutor, as a teacher, as an engineer, but none of them have said that there was any discussion about him even thinking about something like this, expressing any opinion or anything to give you that indication. Thanks so much. That was Shaima Khalil bringing us up to date. You may be familiar with the board game Monopoly, where players try to make money out of property. The rules are pretty simple. The set is quite cheap to buy, but that's not how things go these days. Board games, or tabletop gaming, is increasingly popular in the US, with games like Dungeons and Dragons, which are featured in the Stranger Things TV series, doing particularly well. And there's another one on the up at the moment, Wargame Warhammer 40,000 or 40k. It was released back in the 70s, actually, by a UK Model Army manufacturer, Games Workshop, but it's taking off now. It's neither cheap nor that easy to play. Leslie Isla Thompson in Nashville has more.
So this army is the Adeptus Mechanicus.
Local game shops are one of the few remaining third spaces, those places people gather that aren't home or work. And these shops are the central location for many of the most popular gaming IPs, like sci-fi wargame Warhammer 40,000, which uses 3D miniature models to build armies and play against other armies on a tabletop.
This is the deployment boundary. Okay. Your units need to be behind the line.
Okay. And this activity is growing in popularity. Manufacturer Games Workshop reported 18% profit growth in 2025, much of that driven by the Warhammer 40,000 IP, which is expanding into video games, film, and television licensing. While Warhammer 40,000 originated in the UK, its largest market is now North America, which makes up the biggest share of Games Workshop's revenue. But Warhammer 40,000 comes with a particular drawback. Its expense.
Warhammer isn't cheap.
This is Ron Wagner, owner of the Gamekeep shop in Nashville. He told me that contributing to the expense of the hobby is that unlike other tabletop games that come with pre-built models, Warhammer 40,000 models come unassembled. This follows the wargaming tradition of Games Workshop, which means the cost to play includes more than just the models themselves, which are also more expensive than other IPs like Dungeons and Dragons.
Like if you were to go to the D&D models, you just take them, you paint them, you're done. It's that quick. They come in price like $4.99 all up to $15, $16.99. It's not that expensive. But GW's models have more detail. They have more refinement. Your average box or squad is like between $65 and $95.
And human psychology plays a role in this, too.
The quest to play 40K is a never-ending quest. It's a never-ending sinkhole of money. The armies are going to change. Your desires for your armies are going to change. You're going to want more. You can't spend enough.
And this quest can rack up quite a price tag.
This right here would probably be about $1,000. I spent maybe $5-6 on it.
But it probably cost me $900 to $1,100.
Gamer Jeff Smith has been playing since age 12, and in the past 5 years alone, he's spent over $10,000 on his armies.
Christmases, birthdays, stuff that's not, okay, so I'm spending money on my son and family and bills, and I'm a type 1 diabetic, but my expense money is, some people might even affectionately call it plastic crap. If you haven't heard that yet from a Warhammer guy, you will.
But this shop in particular is working to lower the barrier for entry for those who are interested but don't want to shell out thousands, like offering tables for free and even stocking an army and all the materials needed for a game.
It's all got painted by people in the community. We provide all the mats for the guys to run. I got 12 crates of terrain for them to use at no cost to the players.
Warhammer 40,000 will continue to grow in the United States, with Hollywood's Henry Cavill, a devoted 40K player himself, on board to produce a film series for Amazon. So despite the cost, these self-proclaimed nerds will continue to play the game, if only for one simple reason.
Well, we all want to do something we enjoy.
There we are, that's Leslie Thompson. And she brings us to an end of News Hour today. Thanks for listening. And from Owen Bennett-Jones here in London, goodbye.